Real-life baby reindeer star Fiona Harvey has sensationally threatened to sue Netflix for £11 million. So real-life Martha, 58-year-old Fiona Harvey, is threatening to sue the streaming giant for £11 million over defamation, misinformation and personal damages inflicted. And now The Sun can exclusively reveal that she sent dozens of chilling emails to Sir Keir Starmer, and guess what they were signed off with? Sent from my iPhone. Harvey, who was played in the Netflix show by the amazing Jessica Gunning, absolutely hounded the British politician, and some messages were so shocking that we can't actually reveal them. But some we can, and here they are. Ignore typos, I'm a professional. Senior Scottish professionals do not type. We just run the country behind the scenes while others pretend to do their non-jobs. Sent from my iPhone. Tomorrow, everyone who has not already been told to f off will be by me. God, Keir, your wife is a Anything else he could blame on his ugly wife and her mother. His poor kids, they need to be taken into care. Sent from my iPhone. Sir Keir, who is tipped by pollsters to become the next leader of the UK, bore the brunt of Harvey's wrath, but our exclusive email cache shows she targeted multiple people in an 8-month spree. Harvey sent a staggering 276 messages to Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer in less than 8 months, which included vicious attacks on him and his family, only a fraction of which can be publicly shown due to the explicit nature of their contents. Just like in the show, the messages are in Martha's trademark style, with plenty of spelling and punctuation mistakes, and they were all signed off with "sent from my iPhone." And show spoiler alert, Martha doesn't actually own an iPhone. The question is, what did police know in 2021? And what has Harvey been up to since? Was any action taken?
What we know is that there was a referral. A large number, hundreds of emails were sent from Fiona Harvey to Sir Keir's parliamentary email account. These emails, which were quite they were menacing, and they contained rude references to his wife, about his family. These messages were sent, 276 of them, between July and August 2020.
Well, if there's one thing about Netflix, they do true crime really well. We have an insatiable appetite, especially in this country, for true crime stories, and this ticks every single box. Got elements that are new, we've never seen before when it comes to female stalking a man. Got the true story elements to it, but also the dramatisation, the fact that it's so cleverly done and so well made. I think it was all round going to be a smash hit from the very beginning. The gravity of the true story, the title doesn't really give very much away, so you're not really sure what you're clicking on. I think when you first go on Netflix, Baby Reindeer doesn't really suggest anything about the story. So the first time seeing those episodes, I was in shock. The fact that it's based on a true story, the fact that Richard Gadd plays himself, that he's able to relive his trauma on camera, I thought was really groundbreaking. I think it was hard not to sympathise with Richard in the first viewing because he was there in the room when I watched it, and obviously it was a very emotional experience. But again, the more I went back and watched it again, I feel like the victim's testimony that is there, you can't ignore it. It's still his story. He's still a victim of stalking and abuse. But of course, there are two sides to every story, and the more that we found out about the real-life Martha, Fiona Harvey, all round, you do have to wonder, how much it has hurt and affected both sides. Reading the emails, it makes perfect sense. We've seen the kind of emails and voice messages that Richard Gadd was getting from Fiona, and the tone and how chilling and cold and aggressive they can be. So seeing the emails to Keir, it makes perfect sense that this was the kind of messages that he would be receiving. In terms of how it's going to affect the story, the real life Martha, Fiona, came out last week on Piers Morgan saying that, it's not true, essentially, but what we're seeing here is more evidence against her building. So where this story will go from here, she's saying that she wants to sue Netflix. Unfortunately, perhaps this is backfiring because there's more evidence to suggest that she did do what Richard Gadd and Netflix have portrayed her of having done. I think there's something to be said for the fact that, Fiona has an ability now to cash in on this story. She accused Richard Gadd of doing so by releasing the series on Netflix, but also she's now doing the exact same by threatening to sue Netflix for £11 million. I'm not sure of the likelihood of whether or not that's going to go ahead. I think it would be fairly unlikely, and I would agree that she is kind of jumping on the bandwagon now. She knows that there are people out there that are on her side. I think it depends what kind of take you took on the show, depending on how you feel about the emails that have been sent. You know, there will be people who sympathise with Richard, there will be people who sympathised with Martha, aka Fiona. Reading the emails, it will depend on whose side of the line you stood on after watching the series for the first time. These emails are obviously damning. Things that he has said about her are true, and therefore it does make for quite interesting discourse now, where we're kind of developing into this he said, she said between Richard and Fiona. But essentially, the emails do point to everything that was shown in the series, in that, you know, she does have a tendency to send emails that are chilling, that are difficult to read, that are uncomfortable and can be quite traumatic. She probably thought she was going to get away with it. And this series has obviously brought to light what's gone on in the past, and now people are so invested in her past and what's happened between her and Richard that perhaps she thought that there were no consequences for sending these emails, that no one was ever going to see them. Perhaps how she also thought about what happened between her and Richard was never going to be, you know, public knowledge. But yet here they are, we've seen them, and there's no denying it. It definitely gives scope for, I would say, other documentary makers to come in and investigate the fallout after the Netflix series, but I don't believe that Netflix are going to be touching this story again. I did speak with a source at the BAFTAs last week who did confirm with me that there were absolutely no plans to take Baby Reindeer any further or revisit it for a second series.
It's very unfortunate that some people with public profiles sometimes suffer from harassment, stalking, malicious communications, and sometimes worse, from members of the public. The levels and number of emails sent in this case to Keir Starmer is deeply worrying, very offensive, and I am sure that if they are proved to be absolutely genuine, then a number of serious criminal offences have been committed. Individual officers have been castigated in the past for not dealing with stalking allegations properly, for making victims gather the evidence themselves, for example, rather than being really proactive, understanding the seriousness, trying to stop the crime and trying to stop the situations from getting worse. If Keir Starmer and the Labour Party merely passed these emails on without perhaps some form of follow-up, then I fear it could be possible that they have laid effectively gathering dust and not been proactively investigated. Since Baby Reindeer has hit our screens, there has been an increased number of cases of stalking being reported. If that is so, then that is a very good thing, and I give all due credit to Netflix and the producers for creating that very welcome side effect. But it will only be welcome if these allegations, if these crimes that are reported are investigated properly and perpetrators are brought to book.